Earth faced a massive environmental disaster, submerging the entire planet in water. Seeking refuge, the elite of humanity migrated to Kepler-209, a habitable world. Unfortunately, the atmosphere on Kepler-209 caused women to lose their ability to conceive. Determined to find a solution, the people of Kepler-209 organized an expedition to Earth, hoping to establish a new life and continue their legacy. Despite numerous attempts, none of the expeditions provided evidence that Earth could support life. Kepler-209 dispatched 3 scientists on a mission to explore Earth, collect crucial information, and transmit it back. However, upon entering Earth's atmosphere, an unexpected event occurred, resulting in the crash of the landing module. The astronauts found themselves submerged underwater, with only Louise Blake remaining conscious after the chaotic landing. Exhausted, Blake stumbled upon Holden's lifeless body, before discovering another landing module containing the injured but alive Tucker. On a solo reconnaissance mission, Blake ventured into the unfamiliar surroundings, studying the local life forms, analyzing the atmosphere, and gathering essential data. Suddenly, a thick fog rolled in, obscuring visibility. To guide her back, Tucker launched a signal rocket into the sky. However, their landing module became the target of an attack by Aborigines. In the struggle, Tucker used a rocket launcher to fend off one of the attackers, sustaining injuries in the process. Despite his efforts, he was captured along with the module. Upon returning to the landing site, Blake discovered traces leading to their capsule. Following the trail, she too fell victim to an attack and found herself in a settlement. The inhabitants tossed her into a deep well filled with water, where she discovered Tucker already present. As they climbed out, they noticed people outside with children. Blake soon realized that Tucker's chances of survival were slim. Tucker, acknowledging the inevitable, decided to bite a poison capsule embedded in a badge hanging on his chest. Like others from Kepler, he was willing to sacrifice himself for the greater cause. With the ingestion of the capsule, Tucker succumbed to death. Louise remembered her dad giving her a matchbox before he left for Earth. It had pictures of astronauts and marked a special time, 100 years after humans first landed on the moon. This matchbox was precious, passed down from her grandpa, and looked after carefully over time. Blake didn't want her dad to leave, but he had a mission to help others. As Tucker took the poison and passed away, a big wave started, flooding the well where Blake was trapped. She called for help, and was rescued along with Tucker's body. As they came out, Louise remembered a moment from her childhood, when her dad showed her a flask with a little green tree sprout inside. It was a simple, yet meaningful memory that now flooded her thoughts. After the tide subsided, Blake found herself back in the well, but she managed to strike up a conversation with a girl named Mila. Louise asked Mila to fetch a biometer, a device to send data to Kepler. As evening approached, children and a young mother with a baby descended into the well. Suddenly, their settlement came under attack by armed soldiers. Some natives were killed, and others were taken captive. Blake and the children hid in the well, but she witnessed Mila being taken away on a boat, clutching Louise's bag with the biometer. When the attackers approached the well, Blake pressed herself against the wall, and the children submerged underwater to avoid detection. Believing the coast was clear, the invaders sailed away on their boat. The following morning, Narvik, Mila's mother, realized her daughter had been taken and set out to find her. Louise followed her to a barge that had docked on the shore. Narvik, overcome with rage, aimed a rocket launcher at the crew, but Blake intervened, suggesting they use a flare to distract the invaders. Tensions rose, and Louise had to incapacitate Narvik to prevent further violence. After sending the flare into the sky to distract the occupants of the boat, Blake seized the opportunity to sneak on board. Amidst the chaos, she located her belongings and the captives, but couldn't free Mila or retrieve the biometer before the invaders returned prematurely. Forced to blend in, she hid among the captives as they were offloaded onto the coast. Transported to a rusted metal structure resembling a ship, the chief of the armed men, named Pang, singled out the girls and ordered their separation. Discovering Louise's rifle among the stolen items, Pang claimed it for himself and identified Blake as a Kepler native. Pang escorted Blake to meet Gibson, the head of the community, who, to her surprise, also hailed from Kepler as part of a previous expedition. Gibson settled on the land and harbored hopes of transmitting information back to his kin on Kepler. However, the natives had destroyed the transmitter. Gibson revealed that Louise's father was deceased, and now he spearheaded the project. His plan entailed constructing a tidal wall, establishing a hydroelectric power plant, and preparing for the return of the remaining Kepler people. After chatting with Gibson, Blake heads to her room to unwind and take a shower. Suddenly, she notices something unusual. She's bleeding, and she realizes her body is changing, meaning she can have babies now. Curious, Blake visits the classroom where Gibson teaches. Gibson's adopted son, Neil, teaches separately for some reason. Neil shows Blake a small tree sprout he got from someone in the engine room. They chat through a pipe sometimes. Louise figures out it's her dad, because he's the only one with the sprout. She goes to the engine room and finds her dad locked in. Gibson shows up and tells Louise her dad betrayed them by falling in love with an Earth woman. He destroyed the transmitter so they couldn't go to Earth. Blake insists on talking to her dad. Gibson takes her to the cabin, where he tells her this planet is alien territory, and they shouldn't come back. There are already survivors here, and they own the land. He doesn't say anything more, and Louise leaves, puzzled by her dad's actions. Blake felt upset with her dad's choices. After thinking things over, she decided to use the meteorological station to send a message to Kepler. She planned to connect a special device to it and send the message that night. Gibson invited Louise for dinner, where Neil and his mom talked about how they ended up living with Gibson. Neil's mom had a hard time giving birth, and Gibson helped her. During dinner, the lights suddenly went out. It turned out that the savages had attacked and cut off the power. Gibson told Neil and his mom to hide, and he went to defend the community. He also told Louise to go to the cabin for safety. On her way to the cabin, Louise was attacked by Narvik, who wanted her daughter back. Narvik threatened with a knife and forced Blakey to take her to Mila. When they reached Mila's room, Palin and his soldiers arrived and disarmed Narvik. But Palin didn't stop there. He kept hurting Narvik. Louise didn't like seeing Narvik treated that way. As Narvik was taken away, she managed to say that Gibson and his men only took girls from the Aborigines. When Blake questions Gibson about the situation, he explains that the girls are important for humanity's future. He says that when the Kepler people arrive on Earth, they will be too old to have babies. So, Gibson plans to give local girls to the men for having children. By then, the girls will be old enough to be women. They are taught to admire everything about Kepler and the people who live there. During their talk, Palin arrives with a bag containing a biometer, but the device is missing. Gibson tells everyone to find it. Just then, Neil comes in with a toy belonging to Mila. He had taken it when soldiers kidnapped Mila from her home. Mila had hidden the biometer inside the toy, and now Neil has found it. Upon returning to the cabin, Louise spotted Mila hiding in the closet. The girl had managed to escape from the guards and sought refuge there. Palin was informed of Mila's disappearance and searched Blake's cabin, but found nothing. He then attempted to force himself on Blake, believing all Kepler women were eager to conceive. Blake resisted, and when Palin heard noise from the closet, she kissed him to protect Mila. In that moment, she fed him a poison capsule, causing Palin to collapse and die. Louise retrieved her rifle from Palin and freed Mila. Together, they went to rescue the captives, releasing Narvik and the others. As they freed the children, Blake went to confront her father. She noticed Gibson leading Neil to the meteorological station to transmit data to Kepler. Realizing Gibson's dangerous intentions, Blake knew she had to stop him before he brought more people from Kepler, leading to conflict with the Aborigines. Louise feared that the natives would only be used as reproductive material, so she joined forces with her father and the savages to escape. They killed the guards and headed for the floating station. Gibson had already set up a transmission to Kepler, but Louise attempted to intervene. He revealed that Neil was her brother, proof that an Earthwoman could give birth to a Kepler inhabitant. Gibson threatened to harm Neil if Blake didn't surrender her rifle. Reluctantly, she complied, knowing Gibson had already killed Neil's mother, who had once been her father's lover, and had caused their family much pain. As Gibson transmitted the data to Kepler, Blake attacked him, causing both of them to fall into the water. Blake nearly drowned but was rescued by Narvik just in time. Regaining her composure, Louise handed Neil matches she received from her father, leaving only one match in the box. Later, the girls who remained at the site where Mila and others were abducted noticed people approaching through the fog. And with this, the movie comes to an end. Thanks for tuning in, guys.